Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the June 27th BOCC meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, again, welcome to the meeting. First thing on our agenda, gentlemen, are the minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections?
I don't.
No.
Okay.
I move to approve the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners for Montezuma County for Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County for June 20th, 23. Is there any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up is planning. Morning.
Morning.
So it looks like our first application has been withdrawn.
The notice was published in the paper. No packets were sent out. The signs may have been posted, taken down. But yeah, the applicant's agent notified us that they were withdrawing the application right now.
Okay. So at this point in time, the Triple S Farms LLC has been withdrawn. We have no application at this time. So moving right along to a boundary line adjustment discussion.
Correct.
All right.
Come on up, sir.
Come on down.
People.
Good morning.
Morning.
If you can pull that as close as you can and turn on that mic whenever you want to talk, that way the public can hear you.
Yes, sir.
So Mr. Hooton, he lives just west of Highway 491 there at Road CC, or C.1. And he is interested in obtaining a corner section from the Burnison property that barely crosses 491 and continues for, I don't know how many, 35 plus acres to the southeast. So rather than this being an exemption for a standalone parcel, it's just a boundary line adjustment for that little triangle section to go to the Hootons. Neither one's in a subdivision, so we don't have to go through the subdivision amendment process.
So it's just to include the 0.87 acres?
Correct.
sir.
Okay.
So there's a subdivision right north of there. That's why in the northeast corner of that triangle, you see that deeded easement section.
Mhm.
That goes to a subdivision that was created several decades ago.
And these numbers are so small. How wide is that easement?
That is a 30-foot easement that's just an access easement
Okay.
right there just east of the current Hooton property line. And I'm not sure, it's just an old easement that was recorded, probably not anything that's ever going to be used.
Are there
But
utilities that go
it does
across there?
exist, so it will be recorded with this.
Okay. I don't have any questions. It seems pretty straightforward. It's, you're just adding that 0.7 acres, that triangle, which is otherwise would be a standalone
Yes, sir.
parcel.
Because it's orphaned from the property across there that's attached to Mr. Burnison, it really presents little to no value to him. It's a value to us, so that creates a contiguous border from ours along the highway. So
Sure.
it makes more sense for us to on that, and it presents value to us. It didn't really present value to him. We reached an agreement to transfer that property if this was approved under the boundary line.
Okay. Questions, gentlemen?
No. Pretty straightforward.
It's actually better that we don't get a .87 parcel created.
Yeah.
So it's a
Exactly.
good case scenario that they're willing to do this.
Okay. Gerald, you have anything?
No, I don't. I don't have any problem with it.
Okay.
It's,
All right.
I'd rather see it do that than be it left as an individual tract on the other side of the road like that, so. No, that's fine.
I would so move we approve the boundary line adjustment application submitted by Eric and Shelly Hooton on property located at 3113 Highway 16491 Cortez.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the boundary line adjustment application submitted by Eric and Shelly Hooton on property located at 3113 Highway 16491, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 7.84 acres more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thanks.
Okay, next, it looks like we have just a couple of Mylars for signatures.
Correct. We've got the previously approved one for the Whites, and then we have the just now approved Hooton Burnison boundary line adjustment.
All right.
That's pretty much all we have.
That's
Unless you
it.
got
Okay.
questions, issues, or something else to discuss?
I don't think we have any questions, or I don't have any
No.
questions.
All right, very good.
Is it getting busier or staying pretty consistent?
It's a little busier. There's a whole lot of they want to do stuff and then they don't ever seem to getting around to doing it, so they come and go and come back, and hundreds of questions and phone calls and proposed developments that it's just more fishing expeditions right now, so I can't even project what is really gonna follow through or not anymore. It's
Well, good
a
deal.
lot of information, but, and people just don't follow through, so I don't know, they change their mind or get sidetracked or go on summer vacation and then forget about it. We'll probably hear back from them.
Okay,
All right?
all right.
Thank you,
all.
guys.
All right, next up is our public comment session. The Montezuma County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all the members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments. Comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time to others. And with that, the public comment is open.
Morning, my name is James Russell Myers.
Go ahead and turn on the mic and get it as close as you can.
Is that better? All right, my name is James Russell Myers. I live at 41777 Highway 184, Mancos, Colorado. I've been before your board a few times before with some concerns and issues of a situation called Meth Mountain, where there's some drug activities going on. To find out that there's members of the government that own the property, and they're utilizing their power in your courts and your law enforcement is not appreciated. I have sued 2 of your judges now for felony child endangerment, and right now they're conspiring to corrupt a minor child under the age of 11. Furthermore, I have a certificate to sue Suzanne Cutler, who is alleged to be an attorney here, but the courts don't know where she's at, nor will they give her address. So I'll give $500 to anybody that can tell me where Judge Suzanne Cutler lives, because she needs to be held accountable for what she's done with this minor child. So things are not real happy. There's a nice hearing today at 3 o'clock with Judge Walker. Maybe he can figure out why the situation is continuing. And then tomorrow there's another hearing, 10 o'clock in the morning. You're all invited. Because I don't appreciate attempted murders. I don't appreciate trying to corrupt minor children. I don't appreciate the sheriff and his demeanor when he personally comes over and threatens people with absolutely nothing to substantiate his acts. So yeah, I do believe that something needs to be investigated, because I'm here for the long haul. I have a personal taste of attempted murder when people failed to kill me. So this needs to stop. I'm going to ask your board to look into it. But if that little boy takes the stand, that's corruption of a minor child, and every mandated reporter is responsible. I've already talked to the Department of Child Safety. So I bless you guys. I know it's a tough job up there, but this type of stuff is not really legitimate nor appreciated in any county, town, or state in this country. It's a justice for all. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Kent Aiken. I live at 15620 Road 32 in Mancos. And I'm here on behalf of myself as a retired physician and several of my retired colleagues, Dr. Carla Demby, Dr. Brian Demby, Dr. Doug Baggy, and Dr. Robert Heil. We wish to express our great appreciation to the commissioners for their already demonstrated concern and interest in trying to resolve some of the issues related to Southwest Health System. One of those most recently that's come to everyone's attention was the threatened closure of the Family Birthing Center, but we're also concerned about the loss of primary care providers from our community over the past several months, as well as we appreciate the financial difficulties that the hospital system has, and we would very much like to work towards solutions and help to contribute some of our knowledge to allow the problems to be resolved more long-term. There are 3 specific things that we would appreciate the further assistance of the commissioners with. The first of these is that we're quite concerned about a critical loss of nurses and a potential loss of more providers from the community over the threatened closure of the Family Birthing Center. We don't feel that as yet the SHS board or the administration has made it clear what's going to happen there, and even though they say it's going to stay open for the short term, we know that there are staff who work there who are looking for other work, and if that happens, it's going to really make it difficult to keep obstetrical care in our community. So we would urge you, number one, to encourage Southwest Health System and the board to make a clearer statement about what they plan to have happen related to that closure, so that the staff can start to make better plans to stay in our community and allow obstetrical care to continue here. The second thing is that we have some concern that with the number of vacancies on the SHS board, that the management company, Community Healthcare Corporation from Texas, may try to influence who's on that board and get members that are more supportive of CHC, and therefore we would urge that you try to get the SHS board to share their bylaws so that we can all see what the qualifications are for a person to serve on the SHS board and what the process is to select those persons. So if you would please ask for those bylaws and make it clear to the public what that process is. And then the third thing is that we feel that ourselves, as well as many other stakeholders in the community, have something positive to offer to the SHS board and the MCHD boards in terms of our experience and ideas, and we would encourage you to try to facilitate a workshop that would allow both boards as well as other stakeholders to have a discussion that could lead to some longer-term solutions related to the ongoing problems that we've seen. We're already at the second interim CEO at the hospital since the other CEO resigned, and I think I read somewhere recently that our health system has the highest turnover of any health system in Colorado as far as CEOs over the past 25 years. So we really want to try to see some much longer-term stability and continuation of the essential care that Southwest Health System provides. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mary Dodd, and I live at 1324 Melrose Street. And I wish I had gone before Dr. Aiken, because he so eloquently expressed some of the same things that I wish to express. I want to thank you for your leadership and continuing involvement in this crisis. I'm here to ask that you continue your strong leadership in this situation. Please consider actions you can take, such as passing a resolution in support of stakeholder involvement in all decisions regarding the hospital, working with the Montezuma County Hospital District Board to find temporary financial solutions to this crisis, and working with Representatives McLaughlin and Catlin, as well as Senator Simpson, to keep this crisis in the forefront of our legislature's minds and hearts. It's there for sure, but we need to keep it there. Representative McLaughlin has been in touch with me every day to offer any help she can. The reversal of the decision to close the birthing center is an important victory for our community, but it represents only one battle in a larger war. And yes, I'm using war as a metaphor because we are truly fighting not only to save our hospital, but to help it thrive so that we're not repeating these kinds of community involvement and issues down the road. We're fighting a war against a corporation that has created a toxic culture for the people who work there, that has patronized and dismissed this community by their deceitful hubris and the announcement of the closing of the birthing center, and that has done little to repair the damage. In order to win this war, we must work together to accomplish the goals that Dr. Aiken so eloquently outlined. I look forward to continuing to work with the amazing members of this community to ensure the success of Southwest Memorial Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, folks. Commissioners, thank you for listening to our messages. My name is Alan Mays, 21693 County Road 21. While I respect the messages that we've heard from the community this morning, I would like to know, where were they last year when a forever tax was passed, allowing the hospital to continue with what they seem to be doing without any oversight? So the community does need to come together and fight these things. So I'm glad to see the turnout that we have here at the commissioner meeting, but it seems that crisis tends to bring people out rather than proactive work to begin with. On that subject, I'll just say that we will move forward. Our hospital is important to our community. I do want to add one other thing, another subject. Here just a meeting or so ago, one of your department heads gave a report of the trails to Mesa Verde, and in that report, the message of a ruin site on the location came up. I don't know how many years we've been working on this Trails to Mesa Verde, but when that comes up at the 12th hour, you kind of wonder, well, is this thing going to happen? Because we know when something like that happens, the State Historical Preservation Office has to come into play. You can't just put dirt over the top of it and say it doesn't exist. And now the public is aware of it. That's just one thing that is out there. So investigations of historical sites will have to take place. So it's a little disturbing that this trail has been looked at, surveyed, and now we see that there's maybe a historical site on that. So more work has to be done with this kind of planning for the future. So I just wanted to let you know that that could delay this thing even that much further, because lots of people will get involved now with that trail. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
While she's handing that out, my name is Charles Jeter. I've spoken before the board in the past, and my address is in Chula Vista, California. However, I'm a member of the Four Corners Rifle and Pistol Club. I've spoken at one of the meetings about that and also about mental health. Today, I'm passing out something that is looking at land use code, which I've also spoken about 3 years ago concerning Cortez. The issue I have right now is that we have a demographics problem, and I guess I would say that it's pretty self-evident when you take a look at the circled figures on there. But basically, we have an issue with the count that they're using, and I've looked at the land use code briefly for Montezuma County, or the figures they're using, and they seem to be better, but not exactly accurate. My source is the Colorado DOLA site, and so I'm concerned because there's a lot of projections, there's a lot of public comment, and a lot of public information that's being put out, but the problem is we don't have the proper facts. On the second page of what I handed you, you'll see circled the number of local government jobs that they have here, and they represent that, if you look at the first page, as 9%. However, it's actually 18%. Now, where that matters is specifically in how much money they also claim those jobs are, which is $51,000 average, compared to the next category, which is roughly $33,000 or so. So I'm going to pause for a second and let you know that I do believe that's important, because if we're looking at actually doing public policy and actually bringing the county and the city together to look at that 1 mile zone and that 3 mile zone, which does impact my gun club and does impact everybody's life in general, we need to make sure we're looking at the right factors or the right issues for what we're looking at for housing shortages. I've had some, I would prefer to actually be talking to you about things like deed restriction for government first responders and things like that. That's initially why I got involved in this, because I think that's a great way to keep our own talent here and actually incentivize people to stay. However, I can't really go out and talk to people like, say, the chief police or the fire department people and give them figures that's completely different than what the figures are being represented by the city of Cortez. I will be speaking tonight at the county, at the council, and I did send him an email. I sent an email to Rachel Marshbanks, the director, who put the report out. I have received no response from them, so I will speak in public about that at 7:30 tonight. Unfortunately, I have to wrap that up with a very favorable comment about how your compassion was seen. I listened to a 3.5-hour session that you guys had on land use, and I want to tell you that your perspective is exactly what benefited me directly in California with my dad, who was a small-time cattle producer with about 35 head. And we were able to negotiate with the county, Solano County, back about 15, 18 years ago, and they took about a $90,000 lien off our property. That's how gracious the people are. And I want the public to know in Montezuma that these people, from what they said, the people sitting up here, what I heard, that kind of compassion is exactly what was expressed by your board, I think it was about 6 weeks ago. So that 3.5-hour session was very much appreciated. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, members of the county.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Mike Lynch. I live at 21730 County Road S. I'd like to echo a comment by the second commenter. I believe he said he was a retired physician. One of the things that he mentioned was he asked for some help from you in finding out what the bylaws are for the board for the hospital. And I'd like to echo a concern in that I hear not only from the commissioners but from other people that there are board positions open on boards in our county, but it's difficult for me to find out how many positions are open, how many boards, how to apply for a position for these boards where there are openings. And it's kind of frustrating when I would like to help or maybe apply for a position on a board that has an open position, but it's difficult to know where to go to get the information and the process for applying and getting on that board. So I'd just like to reiterate kind of what he talked about in regard to board positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Okay. One last time.
M.D. McAfee, 22277 County Road 20 in Lewis. I just want to say thank you, and I want to emphasize again, how do we get the bylaws? How do we find out the processes for the SHS board? I've spent an hour and a half on the phone with 2 of those board members on 2 different occasions, and nothing has been forthcoming. So if you can tell us at some later date, I know you can't do that now, what you're doing. We'd like to know what your actions are going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Good morning, Phil Schmidt, 26812 Road Inn here in Cortez. I represent myself and my wife, Dr. Erin Schmidt, OBGYN at the Southwest Hospital. We learned of this closure or potential closure of the birthing unit the day before I went to cancer surgery in Salt Lake City, giving us a little opportunity to be involved in the transition process. We were really excited while we were in Salt Lake to learn of the community support for my wife, the nurses, and other people in this community. The birthing center is critical to this county and the growth of this county and the health of this county. And what I wanted to say today is that, to echo a couple of the other folks here, this is just the start of keeping the birth center open, this change in direction. There's a huge nursing challenge right now. My wife and her partner are very committed to the area, but there's a lot of mystery around their future. And if the birthing center starts to fall apart, or SHS, it doesn't become strong in their leadership, we will lose this hospital ultimately. And it's a domino effect through other providers in the community, because, you know, to move to this community, there's not a ton of other jobs. So frequently you have a couple move in. They're both either, you know, practicing physicians or providers of some kind, and it's a really big challenge to get people back in the community once they left, especially when you have an event that happened, like announcing the closing of the birthing center and then reversing it. So communicate with us, the hospital and the hospital board, of course, and also strong providers in the community and retired providers in the community here. We're all here to help. We love this community. We don't want to lose our hospital ultimately in the birthing center. Even just last night, there was a massive hemorrhage. My wife was at the hospital till 4 a.m. supporting, you know, a real challenge in our community, a medical challenge. And there was short nurse situation there, and talented nurses that have already departed. So this is just the beginning of it. I'll speak more in the future here, and I'm just back in the area. I'm 9 days post-op, so I'm up here, but I want to make our presence known and let us know we're here from the community. We want to make this work, and there's other sides to the story other than just SHS. We've been to those board meetings along the way, and that is one side of the story, and I encourage you to reach out to folks like us and the retired physicians to get another angle on what's actually going on, because I think that's important as well. On a personal note, I want to change topics real quick. I know I'm right at, am I 3 yet? 4? 2, oh, I'm out. I'll do that next week. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the support of the hospital and the birthing center. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jim Law, 10409 Road, 41.4 Mancus. I just want to speak briefly to augment most of the comments that have been made here before. SHS is a 501c3 organization and therefore a public utility. Perhaps their lawyers have advised them to keep their mouths shut, but I think the public and the board here would be far better served and helped if we had a more transparent view of these issues. And so I'd like to ask these questions, which I know you can't answer right now, but that you might like to get the answers to. Why can't we have the tax-paying citizens of the county see the contract with CHC? Why can't we see the SHS bylaws? We heard that CHC management has insisted upon as a condition of a loan by Vector Bank and its associates. Is it true that they were the sole company under consideration? If so, what were the other considerations? We need more people on the SHS board, and the gentleman just talked about that. And of course, we're responding, I suppose, to an emergency, those of us who haven't been paying attention. People who have good understanding of both the financial and supervision of a management company. For example, having a company managed solely by numbers is a known recipe for a disgruntled workforce. Did the board ask CHC and other companies it managed about the management style and its effects, positive and negative? A hospital, or any business for that matter, that has a high turnover as a result of poor management skills is excessively inefficient, as basic management skills will tell you. Why is this so? In any case, I encourage you, this board, and any members of the public to engage in these issues. SHS needs additional competent board members, and through the Board of County Commissioners' leadership, I encourage you to take a look at and help reset the loan agreements, especially with Vector Bank. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, with that, we're going to close the public comment session. We're going to jump right back into our regularly scheduled program, which the next on our agenda is an update from SHS. We have Lisa, Shelly, and an interim CFO. So come on down, guys. I'll let you introduce yourselves. You can sit, you can stand wherever you're most comfortable. Turn on the mic, pull it as close to your mouths as you can so that everybody can hear you. And
Hi, my name is Shelly Deem. I've been a CFO for 30 years, and I've worked for CHC for about 15. I've been here.
a little bit closer.
I've been here for.
So.
My name is Shelly Deem. I've been with CHC for about 15 years. I've been a hospital CFO for about 30. So I have a lot of experience, and I've done a lot of interim work as well. I've only been here about 5 weeks, so I'll try to help with any information you would like. So,
hello, and
sorry.
I'm Lisa. I'm the Chief Nursing Officer. Been here for 15 years, and I'll introduce, this is Gene. He is our interim CEO at the moment until our permanent CEO comes, actually July 24th. So I'll let Gene give an update.
Okay.
Yes, good morning. First, let me thank you very much for the opportunity to come here. As Lisa pointed out, my name is Gene Miller. I am I'm not sure whether it's the interim or the interim CEO. But as of Thursday of last week, I assumed the responsibility of interim CEO. I've been here for about 6 weeks now. I was originally brought in to be the interim practice administrator for the medical group that we have within the system, and as such, assumed the additional responsibilities for the interim CEO position last Thursday. I am not an employee of CHC. I certainly have worked with CHC in years gone by, but I am employed directly by the hospital at this time. So if I might go ahead and please tell me if I have a limited amount of time.
No. You have no limited amount of time. You have all the time you want. So basically what we want to do is to create a dialogue with you all, and maybe even going farther in our boardroom. You know, I heard that there was a pretty rough meeting that SHS, the board, took last Thursday, but this is not that room, and this is a boardroom to create a dialogue, because the hospital is crucially important to us as county commissioners, for our community, and that's what we want to create, and it's going to be a very straightforward conversation, and you have no limitations to your time, so take all the time that you need.
Thank you very much. Obviously, there's been a lot of change over the past few weeks, the one of which the announcement that there was an intention to pause the OB service, that position, after considerable input from the community and medical staff and so on. That decision was reversed. Let me say that we're committed to the OB program. No question. We're committed to making sure that that works. So if there's anyone that has a question about that, again, we are committed to make that work. Why, in fact, was that something that was considered? There were financial issues. There are financial issues that have to be addressed. That was one way at getting some cost savings within the program. But let me stress, it's not the only way. Although I've been in this role for a very short period of time, I can tell you that we already have a list of things that we're looking at, things that we've already implemented to, number one, enhance the revenue. That's the real secret, I think, to the hospital and the stability of the hospital in general, is we have to grow. You have to grow to be able to accommodate all of the increases in the expenses that we are having to deal with at this point in time. So that's my number one concern and will be my focus. And by the way, I should have mentioned that we certainly are excited that Joe Thine, who will be the new CEO, will be starting somewhere around the 24th of next month. And the reason I say starting, I should say that he will be here on site. Now, he'll have to go to Dallas for a day or two to go through some orientation, after which time he will be here on board. I have already started a dialogue with Joe, and I didn't participate in the interview process with Joe, but I'm certainly impressed with the interaction that I've had with him up to this point in time. He's from this general community, and that's going to be a big, big thing. One of the key things that, if I were the one having selected the CEO, would be to look for some stability. You know, the community knows if there's been a turnover at the senior leadership level for a number of years. Stability is key to being able to enact positive change. So I'm really excited that Joe is in the area. He wants to remain in the area. Joe, I think, is going to be here through the week, and then he'll probably have to go home every other weekend. He's living, of course, in Durango. He wants to allow his son to graduate, but he's going to be living here through the week and as necessary on the weekend. Very, very optimistic about Joe. Again, I'll continue to meet with him over the next few weeks so that whenever he does come in, there would not be a big break as far as what we're starting. There is hope, and again, that's something that I really, really want to stress. And that's not just from looking at it from Thursday of last week. As I look around the room, I've had many years of running hospitals. And if I were a younger man, perhaps this is a place that I would really love to be. This community is very fortunate to have the services that we have available here. And I'm very optimistic that we can continue to meet those needs and grow over the next number of years. With respect to other issues that have been announced, we did go through a reduction in force. We're not talking about any further reductions in force to offset any loss, if you would, from the OB program. We're not talking about that. And although there was some people thought that the reduction in force was to pay for the OB loss, that was not. They were two different issues altogether. It was something that we just needed to do to be right size. I will stress that we looked first within the top of the organization, and I'm sitting before you. This is one of the things. I'm doing two jobs. We're not having to pay two salaries at this point in time. That's one of the things. Will that continue? I cannot say that's the case. Whenever Joe gets here and he determines what he feels like he needs as far as the practice is concerned. But for now, we're not filling the practice manager position. I'll continue to do both positions. How to do that? Because the rest of the senior leadership team has come forward and says we can take on some of the responsibilities that previously were handled on a day-to-day basis by the CEO, and that makes it possible for me to do those things that I think are very, very important. And a big part of that is to work to interact on a daily basis with the medical community. It's just so vital. I've had the privilege of visiting with numerous practitioners already and have gotten wonderful guidance, insight as to things that we collectively can do to improve upon the situation. It's critical, I think, that we maintain that dialogue between administration and the medical staff, and I look forward to that dialogue with them over the next few weeks that I'm going to be here. The other thing, of course, is with David Faulkner, who was the interim CEO prior to my getting here. Of course, on Wednesday of last week, we announced that he had decided to step away, and that was a personal decision on his part. I think it was a very gracious thing on his part to kind of step back and say, let the healing begin. And that's where I hope we are right now. I would ask that everyone in the community give us the benefit of the doubt. We do have a plan. We do have a plan to be financially strong, both now and in the future. Is it a finalized plan? No, it's not finalized, but it is a work in progress. But with the help with Shelly, and Shelly can speak to this a little bit later on, we've identified, and Lisa as well, we've identified a number of things that we think that we can do operationally. Again, it's a cooperative effort between the hospital staff and the providers that are already on staff at the hospital as well. But with a cooperative effort there, I am sure that we have enough savings that we can find in relatively short order. Some are going to take longer to take effect, but some of the others can be immediate, and we've already started many of those things. With that, if you have questions for me, or if you'd like to hear a financial update from Shelly, whatever your pleasure is at this point.
Well, obviously, we want to hear the financial update because that's obviously, it sounds like the most critical. And I'm kind of curious because in 2019, when I started here, there's always a projection of days of cash on hand. And in the 4.5 years that I've been sitting here, we've never reached that yet. So I'm kind of curious to hear that. But I want to go back to what you said. And I think it's important is that this community has never had any stabilization. So just from 2019, from when I started sitting in the seat, I think it's, and now you're the interim, I think we've had 5 or 6 CEOs. That's not stabilization of anything. And how can any organization run without any type of stabilization? So I'm glad to hear you say that you also see that, and that hopefully the new CEO will provide some type of stabilization to our community, because I think that it's paramount. Without the stabilization, we're never going to get any further than what we have today. And then also being able to, hopefully, we're the conduit to build this dialogue between the boards and the community to move us down the road. Because, like I said earlier, it's critical that we do not lose this hospital because it is so vital to everybody in this community. So I'll stop, commissioners.
Sure.
Well, I think this is, a lot of what Jim said is exactly correct. Over the past, when I served on this commission before, every 3 months, your CEO was in here giving us a financial report on that hospital. And that's what it says in the contract. That needs to happen, and that needs to start again. We need to keep track of what's going on. That's part of your contract with this county to do this. And it needs to be picked back up again and done correctly, because I've been in here for, 2 years again this time? I think they've been, have they been here once?
A couple times.
Maybe twice.
A couple times.
But it should be happening quarterly to make sure that we're all on the same page. We have communication. We know what's going on out there, and make sure that financially you guys are sound. We're not asking to make decisions about how you run your business. You need to run the hospital. But financially, we're supposed to be keeping track of what's going on out there. That's our obligation in that contract. And I want to see it picked back up and done correctly.
Yeah.
I think when you get your new CEO, it needs to happen.
Well, I certainly would, I agree with you 100% that you need regular feedback. I would probably go a step further and say that at least I would be happy to, in the period of time that I'm here, to sit down and discuss individually what are the markers that really can tell you what's going on, and be happy to discuss some of those things. How do you prevent employee creep? How do it gradually comes back up? You have a reduction in force, it gradually comes back up. What are some things that you need to be looking at on those kind of things too? But regular reporting, I would consider it a privilege to be able to come in before you and give you a report on how well we were doing. That's how I feel about it. So I will communicate your message back to Joe Thine and back to Joe Thomason, who is the Senior Vice President for CHC. I will express that to them as well.
So before we move on, and Shelley, I apologize here, but some of the comments that we heard earlier, and I don't know this, and you might not be able to answer this because this is actually SHS's board, a question to the board, but how many vacancies do we truly have on that board right now? Can you tell me?
4.
4 vacancies, and it's a board of 7?
Correct.
Okay. And then is there any issues with providing those bylaws? It sounds like that hasn't been provided. I mean, and maybe I'm asking the wrong group. Maybe I should be talking to just the board, but I guess my question is, if you can relay this to the board, is why would there not be, I guess we provide everything, and we're just used to doing that because we're elected officials, but I would think equally it would be very easily disseminated to anybody who wants a set of bylaws, and we heard that several times today. So is that an issue, or where can we get them? How do we access them?
So yes, I think it is a question to the board. However, I do have those written down, and those were takeaways from our public comment session as well of asks, and I don't disagree. So I will take this back directly to the lawyers too, because maybe that's where the questions should be. And
so I'm going to caution you right there on one thing. So I don't know how your board works, but this board, we don't send everything back to our attorney. Our attorney works for us. We don't work for him.
Yes, but I think direction and communication needs to be that way, correct?
And that's fine. I'm just saying, I'd like this to get to the board. Yeah, so this is just a board-to-board conversation, but it seems very simple that the bylaws should be able to be disseminated without any issues. I don't see, and maybe they can be, maybe the ask has just not been made properly. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe we're making it properly now, but just that we can have that.
Yeah. I can tell you, I don't have the history here. Typically speaking, bylaws are not confidential from my past. And I just don't know. I would have to ask why it hasn't been. Certainly can express the desire to have those shared, but there's nothing in bylaws typically, and I haven't read all of the bylaws yet, there's nothing generally in bylaws that needs to be confidential.
Yeah, and I would agree, and that's why it kind of seems odd that if people are asking for that it wouldn't be provided. And then also too, where can people find that we are searching for board members? I mean, that was another question that was asked earlier. On your websites, how is that easily found? Where is that at?
Correct, and that's been, needs to be a takeaway, and we need to do that better. Yeah, it has not been publicly said as far as how many board members, on our internet page. So yes, that's definitely what needs to be, and if not a push, advertisement too of what's needed. I don't disagree.
Okay.
And these members are not elected?
No.
Who appoints?
The board that's active.
Typically speaking, the hospital board would be the one that there will be applicants. They're reviewed at the board level, and again, typically, and I'm not sure if it's different here, and if in fact the board is comfortable with that, then they're invited to participate in the board. I would tell you, making sure that the public knows that there's vacant positions is very important. I can also tell you that in the past, as I have tried to get board members to come on board, is that the sitting board sits around and they talk about who are people, who are leaders that bring some diverse ideas, could bring diverse ideas to the board, and the board members reach out to them and say, you know, we'd really love to have your input into the board. Would you consider to be nominated to be on the board? It's something that, again, I don't know what the practice has been here, but that's certainly something that I would think that they could consider doing.
I guess what we're offering is our help, because trust me, we know, just like you stated, that getting board members of any type is very difficult. We wrestle with that all the time, and we have several boards that we appoint. However, we're just wanting to outreach to you all to let you know that we're here to help you too. We want this to be a positive, moving forward. How do we get this thing back on the rails, get it back on track? And I guess it's an outreach to say, how do we help you? But if we don't have the information that we can even send to the people, it's kind of hard to get them interested. So it would be nice to have those.
And again, I'm sitting in the chair for less than a week right now, but if you have individuals that you think would be, one, interested, and two, would be very representative of the community, I would appreciate your suggestions. You can send them to me at the hospital, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to be necessarily acting on those, and given that Joe is going to be coming in a relatively short period of time, but I would promise you that would get into the board's hands if you have suggestions.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
I'd like to seriously consider have the SHS board sit down with us as a board-to-board meeting and discuss some of these with them.
And we can do that on a workshop. We have our workshops every Monday at 1:30, and if that's not convenient for the SHS board, we can alter ours.
We can
We're
go to them.
flexible. We'll go to them. We'll go in the evenings. So again, another outreach. We'll make ourselves available at any time of the day or night that's easy for them to meet. And I think you guys, the board meets typically in the evenings. We can definitely go to them.
I mean, we're charged with health, safety, and welfare, and this is, to me, it's the top of the list. This hospital is crucial to this community. And by announcing that you were going to close the birthing center, sent a wave, an undercurrent through the whole community. You guys employ almost 400 people. That's an economic devastation when people start leaving our community and doctors are leaving and people can't find primary care providers. And I know you're faced with the same problems. It's tough to find those providers, but to drop that kind of a rock in a pond really sends a lot of waves out there. And it creates a lot of instability. And I'd just like to see stability and transparency in all of this.
To state the obvious, it was handled very poorly. And we should have done a better job of communicating well in advance, 3-6 months in advance. But hopefully we've learned something from the experience, and we'll do much better on a go-forward basis, sir. But we'll pass along your request to meet with the board. I can't answer for the board, but I will certainly pass along that request, and appreciate the opportunity to do it. So. Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to let you go, Shelley.
Do you guys have financials you're going to put up?
We haven't received them.
We don't have them.
Oh, okay, because I thought she told me you guys had a packet, but I didn't have it. So anyways, I think in the month of April, we had a very difficult month. We lost $415,000.
Can I get you to get it a little closer?
Sorry, not used to mine. So we lost $415,000 after you added back interest and depreciation, which on a year-to-date basis, which is probably more important, we were at break even for the first 4 months of the year. When you're at break even and you haven't even included what your loan payments are and equipment, that's obviously not a good place to be. Our loan payments are about $300,000 a month. That loss and the year-to-date break even does include the sales tax that we get from the county as well, and that number has been declining due to some changes, I think, in the marijuana laws and shops closing, et cetera. So we did see last month that that went up a little bit, so that was a good thing. In the month of May, we did have about 500,000 extra. I don't know if you're familiar with what they call disproportionate share or the CHASE program in Colorado. Because we do a fair amount of indigent payments, we get about $9 million a year from that program. And every year, a couple months of the year, they true up the previous year. So they're truing up their 21, 22, and then they also true up the payments that we're getting this year for 22 and 23. So we get about $873,000 a month, and then in the month of May, we got an extra $500,000 from the true up of those 2 years, and we will get that in June, and that has been very helpful. The other thing that happened in April that caused some of that loss was we are self-insured for medical, and we had about $300,000 more in additional claims than we had experienced in previous months. So those were the two big, and the other issue was our revenue was down. You know, the biggest thing when people say, what can we do to support the hospital, I would say is do every service that you can in this community and at that hospital if it's possible. There is a certain amount of overhead at that hospital, regardless whether our volume is up or down. That overhead is the same. So the more volume that we can have, and then the month of May, the volume was up about 600,000, which contributed to the net revenue, then that 500,000 additional. So we did have a much better month in the month of May. We expect going forward in the summer months, usually it goes off a little bit, but if we can keep the volumes up, we've looked at things like if we just increase 1 visit a day per doctor or per provider. If we just did, you know, we have some issues we know at the hospital that have been identified, access, the phones getting answered, scheduling, and some of those things. So we're looking at all those access issues so that we can do everything we can to make it possible for those people that want to get services here to give them ease of access to do that as well. So we're looking at a number of things. One, you can look at enhancing your revenue and growing, keeping services here in the community, making sure everybody uses us. And I think then the other thing is you look at what you're doing within your operations and is it working effectively? So we're looking at bringing a vendor in to look at, are we capturing all our charges? Are we coding correctly? Is our documentation the best it could be? Everything in a hospital is built off documentation. So whether you did it or not doesn't matter as much as whether you documented that you did it. So those are some things that have been pointed out that people have concerns about. So everywhere there's been a suggestion of this is an issue, we're trying to look at those, kind of come together as a group of educated people within the organization that have different parts so that we can come together and then come out with the best information and the best solutions to those problems. And the good thing about anything you do, even if you come up with the wrong solution, you can correct it quickly when you figure out if it's working or not, and then you can try something different. So that's kind of where we're headed. We're looking at all our contracts that we currently have with vendors. Is there an opportunity to reduce those costs? Is there an opportunity to look at a different vendor if we can get better rates, et cetera? But I think the one thing that we all have to keep in mind, and that, you know, Lisa's job is to keep us, you know, one is that we always look at patient safety and quality first, and that we don't drive for decisions by financial only. So there's a lot of components when you're looking at operations and making changes. When Jean talked about the RIF, I think one of the things that I would point out is all those positions were in administrative areas. They weren't in direct patient care. So most of the things, and I think some of the issues we have now, we have a lot of contract labor in clinical areas. Obviously, a nurse committed to a hospital in a community is far better than a traveler who does it for the money. So I think helping us recruit nurses to this area would be a great thought, and we've lost some providers, so I think having additional providers we could recruit to the area. Those are our two biggest issues right now, contract labor and locums. So anything the community can do to help us address those issues would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, so cash on hand, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 80 or 81 days?
80 days is what the bond covenants say, or the bond requirements. We were at about 62, I want to say, at the end of April, and then because we got that extra money in May, I think we're at 71, and we anticipate that we would have a little bit extra in this month. However, we have 3 payrolls. Payroll is 65% of the cost of running that hospital, so that's significant. So we do think that we can keep working through days, but if we have lost months, it's hard to have more expenses than revenue and not hurt your day's cash on hand. So that is the goal. I know the SHS board and the MCD board are working together on a reamortization of the loan. What that would do is it would extend the length of the life of the loan and what we have to pay, but part of that loan payment would be set aside and restricted for capital improvements in the hospital. And part of the issue is there's a roof repair that needs to be done. Well, I would say a roof replacement more than a repair. It's over $1 million. And so that would allow some of that money. One would be in our cash. If once that paperwork is signed, there'd be about $1 million put in there for that. And that would also count in our days cash on hand, but that's only going to be available to us up to the point that then it's spent on the roof. Once we spend it, it won't be sitting in the bank and then it won't count. So it's kind of a balancing act of trying to build your cash on hand and then also continue to run operations. And as long as you're profitable, that works well. But when you have those deficit months is when it hurts your cash days on hand.
So you stated that you guys are now or I should say board to board, not necessarily you all, but some of these questions are going back, so hopefully you can get those to the board. But are we communicating now? Are SHS and MCHD communicating? Because we were at a meeting a week ago or so with MCHD's board, but it didn't sound like there was a lot of communication at that point in time. Has that gotten better? Is that better? Do we need to?
We attended the last board meeting and we presented financials and we had that discussion.
But your question is from board to board, correct? SHS
Board to board. Are we
Yeah.
communicating?
Better.
Okay.
Better. I will say that. There's room for improvement, in all honesty.
Last time we spoke, we were talking about the exit of Humana. Are you still suffering from that? Are you still?
The exit of what?
Humana, one of your insurance carriers.
Yes, on an operational basis, trying to manage patients in care, long-term care, those type of things has been a huge barrier with Humana, not in network. And, my understanding is Humana will be pulling out of Colorado, I believe, in 2024. So, yes, the managed care through this year has been a significant hit to our operations with money coming in, absolutely.
Okay. Gerald? Okay, well then I guess I will give the floor to you. Is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I think what I want to add is, the public comments and statements from today, have been heard, realize that this will take time and, repair of obviously dealing with the fear factor we've talked about and, understanding our entity is a huge piece of our community, and don't deny that. And I would agree too that, transparency, complete with the public, with our community is absolutely needed, and don't deny that at all. We'll take these comments back, because I do agree we need to be as a team and, understanding that, the community is involved and can help more and be that, and we don't need to work in a silo as SHS. So just want that to be said. And now obviously we'll be looking at, retention, recruitment, absolutely. The last 2 years I've been in this role, worked hard, worked on, students, internships, pulling into the hospital for recruitment, absolutely. And, now at this point we'll need to be repairing a culture of fear within the hospital as well, and doing that diligently. So obviously a lot of work to be done, and just want to acknowledge that.
All right, thank you. So something else that we've kind of discussed, and maybe this is a time to basically ask, is it, do we want to set up a board-to-board meeting so that we can do it in a workshop? Again, we can do it at any time for us, just to make sure that we are communicating and that all of these boards are communicating, because again, from our standpoint, this is a critical driver of this community, economically, every aspect that you could possibly imagine. So I don't want to just let this drop. I'd really like to get something back. I know you have to take it to the board, but get something back to us by the end of the week with
Okay.
some kind of an answer to keep this moving, because the worst thing we can do is just let this drop.
Right.
And
Yes.
if we let it drop, we all fail and we all lose, so.
I would agree, and we'll take that to the board this week and get you an answer in a time, because I agree. I would think that that's hugely valuable.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, sir, just again, thank you very much for letting us come and visit with you today, so.
Okay. Well, thank you all. All right, next up is our social services, Ms. Montoya and Ms. Hargraves. Come on down. And with us, we have Laura Struthers on Zoom. Good morning.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let's get these done.
Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
One last time, huh?
Is this the last good morning we're going to get to say here, huh?
Yeah, and see my face smiling.
Hopefully it's smiling a lot more afterwards.
Yes, I'm sure it will be. I'm handing over the baton to Callie Hargraves, and I just want to tell you all that the transition is going smoothly, and my staff is here today. Most of them are here because we have Laura Struthers on the Zoom invite, because she has an important award to present to my department today. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Kelly, I'll let you speak for a minute, or we can turn it right straight to Laura.
Things are going really well. I think it's an opportunity to say thanks to Gina for leaving an incredible staff. I'm excited that they have earned CSTAT Distinguished. Things are rolling nicely forward, getting my feet wet, jumping in, meeting with heads of each area, having discussions on what current staffing looks like, all those good things. So it's been good.
Okay. And just so that the public knows, Ms. Montoya is retiring and going on with her life and other fishing adventures or wherever she's going. Don't know. And Ms. Hargraves has been hired to take over the department as the department head. So congratulations and welcome you. And with that, Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Can you all hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and, if I could get permission to share my screen, whoever has control of that, that would be great, so I could share a couple of slides. But in the meantime, good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone else in the room. Hi, Gina. Hi, Kelly. And for those of you I can't see, hello to all of you as well. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here this morning. My name is Laura Strother, and I am the Director of County Relations for the Colorado Department of Human Services here in Denver. Now, my intent was to be there in person, but United Airlines had other plans for me, and they told me to stay home last night. So apologies for not being there in person. Let me go ahead and pull my slides up here. Let me know if you all can see my presentation. Great. I can see it behind you, Commissioner, so wonderful. So I have the distinct pleasure of being here today to celebrate the Montezuma County Department of Social Services for their exceptional work and commitment to Montezuma County residents in the 2022 calendar year. As we all know, 2022 was yet another year of challenges as we continue to recover from COVID. So really give my sincere thanks to Gina, your staff, and all of their hard work over the last year to make sure that the residents of Montezuma County were served well. So the mission of the Colorado Department of Human Services, or CDHS as we call it, is to help empower people to thrive. And we do that together in very close partnerships with our incredible county partners, Montezuma County being one of them. Today we celebrate your staff's flexibility and resilience, and for going above and beyond to provide exceptional service to those in need in your community. So a little bit about CSTAT and what the Distinguished Performance Award is. CSTAT is our performance management tool that allows DDHS to better focus on and improve performance outcomes that really enhance people's lives. So the Distinguished Performance Award recognizes counties that meet goals for timeliness, safety, and accuracy. And counties that meet their goals, we know, are more likely to be meeting the needs of individuals and families in their communities. They're also more likely to have more completed applications for benefits such as SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, LEAP, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, and TANF, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. Counties' exceptional performance help more Coloradans feed their families, heat their homes, and care for their loved ones, and also help folks realize their potential. So connecting people with essential services, we know, empowers them to pursue opportunities to develop valuable skills, get good jobs, and build a more secure future for themselves and their families. So I want to acknowledge Montezuma County Social Services for their first CSTAT award ever. You all improved your performance by 44.9% over 2021's performance. So you came in 12th in the state at meeting your goals 77.4% of the time for the calendar year 2022. And as I mentioned, this award really celebrates consistency. So month over month, your staff performed, your staff was timely, and your staff really just did a fantastic job. So you also maintained 100% performance on Adult Protective Services timeliness of initial response to abuse and neglect, and also on the Colorado Works Entered Employment Measure. And for the Distinguished Performance Award, Montezuma County will be receiving this very beautiful plaque that I would be handing to you right now if I was there. And the plaque says, CSTAT Award, Montezuma County, Distinguished Performance on County CSTAT Measures, Calendar Year 2022. And it's signed by Executive Director of CDHS, Michelle Barnes, and also Governor Jared Polis. So this will be delivered via mail or FedEx to you all to display proudly on your wall, somewhere where your staff and also the public can see it, hopefully. Now, one other award that you all are receiving today is timeliness of benefit applications. Now, even though it wasn't an expectation, and the timeliness measures actually were continued to be waived due to the pandemic, Montezuma County went above and beyond to ensure that applications were addressed timely, in fact, 95% of the time. So for that, you all are getting this lovely certificate, which says, Certificate of Appreciation presented to Montezuma County. Our deepest gratitude for the hard work and dedication to ensure at least 95% timeliness of benefit applications. Signed by Executive Director Michelle Barnes and Deputy Executive Director Anne Marie Braga. So just wanted to say congratulations. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. And I did want to share just a couple of quotes that I gathered from my coworkers here at CDHS. So from our Adult Protective Services staff, they said, Montezuma County staff demonstrates a high level of commitment to their APS clients and to completing a quality level of casework. They have received several certificates from the Administrative Review Division in recognition of their achievements and dedication to excellence. And from our Child Welfare Department, Montezuma successfully completed an action plan regarding monthly contacts with parents, monthly contacts with children, and timely family services plan compliance. They were above the state average for the period between December 2022 and June 2023. Gina and your team have worked so hard to get this completed prior to Gina's retirement, and you all did it. So congratulations to Montezuma County.
Congratulations.
With that, yes, I would love to pause and hear from Gina, from Kelly. I know you're brand new. Anyone else in the room that might want to celebrate your staff, and then I'll close with just one last thing, but want to open it up to you all.
Okay. Again, thank you, Gina. Thank you, actually, to all the staff. We're only as good as the people behind us, and from the commission, I think I can say this for all of us, that we do appreciate you all, and you do not go unnoticed. Thank you. I appreciate you again, and congratulations on this award.
I just want to say, as their acting or going away director, I want to say thank you very much for all the time and effort that you've committed yourselves to working with our community and doing such a fantastic job. This has been a hard road, and I know I know you're going to be happy not to get my emails anymore. Some of you know what I mean, in the middle of the night, etc. But I think the staff are the backbone of this department, and I want you all to know that you are appreciated. There may be days that you don't feel like you're appreciated or even noticed, but you are, and I just want to wish you all the best. Okay, so thank you very much. And APS, I don't know what to say about your team. They are super rock stars. Can the APS team stand up? There's 3 of them.
Can you tell us?
Can the entire
The
department?
acronym for APS, because.
Adult Protection Services.
Okay, thank
and
you.
they have 100%. I mean, I've sat with audits with them, and I couldn't do their job. The way things are required now in the system, it's a very hard job in recording and document everything that they're doing. It's remarkable what they're able to accomplish. I got a really great birthday gift and a retirement gift from the state, because last week we were told we were off our action plan, and that is because the Child Protection Services team has worked very hard in meeting the measurements that were required of us to get off the action plan. That action plan was a part of the Montezuma investigation by the Colorado Protection Ombudsman, and now we have successfully completed the action plan. And I want to give a big shout out to the Child Protection Services team. Please stand up, and that's under Chris Veach. She's the Child Protection Manager.
Don't be shy.
Stand up.
Thank you.
And I want to also mention eligibility. Eligibility, they work very hard in providing a service to our clients and making sure those clients get the benefits that they're eligible for. It's a hard job, and I want the eligibility team to stand up, please. And last year, that was under the direction of Amy Branson. She was the Child Protection Manager at that time. So, Miss Amy Branson, are you here? And thank you very much.
You can stand up.
They're shy, but.
There we go.
And did I forget anyone else? My child support team, would you please stand up? We have 3 members. One's missing. And we also have fraud investigations, Radonna and Irwin. So we have something like 44 staff, and I want to thank the county commissioners for allowing me to be able to ask for more staff, because sometimes it's hard because of our budget, et cetera, but you have been very gracious in allowing me to get and obtain the staff that we need to do our jobs, and that has helped tremendously.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for achieving and getting to where we needed to be, specifically with the ombudsman, and getting that squared away, because that, again, when I started, there were some things that were not super rosy, and now we've come a long way, and I appreciate it. And specifically to you and your staff, you know, I really do appreciate it for
Well,
this county.
Thank you. I didn't know what I was stepping into until after I was hired. It was like after the fact. And I remember you coming into my office, Commissioner Kendall, you need to fix this.
I do. I remember the conversation.
That was my first conversation with the county commissioner. I said, oh boy.
So thank you all again. Laura, do you have anything else?
One last congratulations, and of course, I would also be remiss if I didn't also call out Director Gina Montoya. Just want to thank you and wish you well in your retirement. Coming your way, we have a plaque of recognition for you for years of dedication and commitment to human services in Colorado. We thank you so much. And I know you have a few days of work left, Gina, but I'm going to take this moment of privilege to officially crown you as officially retired. That's what that says. So wear your crown proudly, and we send you all, wishing you all the best in your future adventures. So thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to join. Thank you, staff, once again. And I wish I could have been there in person, but happy to see you all virtually.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
I started in 1983 as a caseworker in Boulder County, and here I am in Montezuma County in 2023. It's time for me to retire.
Okay. All right. Looks like we have a couple other things real quick to take care of for you.
I would so move, we accept the minutes of the regular session held for social services for the month of May 2023, and also the financials for the month of May for 2023 in the amount of $1,268,367.93.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the record of proceedings for the Department of Social Services for May 23rd, 2023, and the payables for May 2023 in the amount of $1,268,367.93. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That is taken care of. Do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Okay, with that, we're moving on to our Veteran Services. Mr. LeBeau.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Are we ready?
We are great.
All right, this is the Veteran Services Monthly Report for May. And as you can see, it's not as many pages as it used to be. I kind of consolidated some things and refined it a little bit. So May 2023 financial report. Permanent salaries is at $3,076.92. Fringe benefits is at $1,350.92. Operating expenses, public outreach, and dues and training are currently at 0. Telephones at 40, for a total expenditure of $4,467.84. May 2023 office activities. Comparison For May of 2022, we are at 157. May of this year, 145, which puts me down by 12. And the difference in that being that in 2022, there was 2 of us. And with the reduction, it kind of slacked off a little bit with veterans coming in. Total telephone calls, 500.
So, before going, Frank, I've got a
Yes.
question, because a lot of these that we were seeing previously were all coming from a different county. Those were not just from Montezuma County. There was a lot from La Plata County and other counties. So when you say this reduction, is that a reduction from Montezuma County, or is it a reduction because now we're not doing a lot with La Plata County?
No, the reduction is, we weren't, when I started, I personally was not doing anything for other people outside of Montezuma County.
Okay, because, I mean,
but the-
historically, we were providing a lot for the other VSOs in the other counties because they didn't have anybody at all.
That is
So
correct.
some of these numbers, when you're doing all of these comparisons, I'd like to know what are Montezuma County and what are counties that we were providing services for outside of the county? Because our focus is Montezuma County.
Correct. And part of the focus back then was travel vouchers. That is a VA program. Our office was strictly doing it as a courtesy to the veterans. But because of me being by myself now, I had to eliminate that part of it, which then eliminates the number of veterans that come into the office. So it makes some challenges for the veterans. They have, some of them, especially if they don't know anything about computers or online programs that they have to use to submit their travel, it makes it a challenge. So I provided them with travel instructions, which has the addresses for both Albuquerque and Grand Junction on there, where they can mail in their travel vouchers. And they can also leave their travel vouchers at the clinics when they leave. In those clinics, they collect about a month's worth, and then they mail them in. So it's the same process. That is just something, that office did as a courtesy.
Okay.
And that, of course, that's part of what drains our numbers. The other part of it is, you got La Plata, you got people in, I hope I'm saying this right, Tisnospos, that used to come into our office. You have people from Shiprock. The whole Four Corners used to come into our office. I eliminated that per the directions I've received, and some of the veterans were upset about it. Some of them are, trying to blame the office I'm trying to direct them to, saying that they can never get a hold of anybody or something like that. I do still help traveling veterans, and that's veterans that are just traveling through our county, but I will not, do a claim or travel or anything for anybody outside of Montezuma County.
Okay.
That's what my focus has been on since January of this year.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the total number of clients that I assisted for May is 676. I had 5 new clients for a total for year-to-date of 25. I had no home or nursing home visits, and I filed 15 claims. The highlights for the office, for May of 2022, there was 14 decisions, 13 favorable, 1 unfavorable, which brings us to our new monthly payments for indirect income into the county, $25,035.68. Our annual total income, $300,428.16, and our monthly retro payments, $42,136.99. Those amounts are, especially the annual amount, is on the high side because there are appeals and claims that are being actually processed from 3 to 4 years ago. So that's what affects the income amount change.
So how many of these decisions of the 14 have been, because it seems like it takes 3, 4, 5 years to get a decision. How many of these decisions were filed 3,
Were
4,
filed-
5 years ago?
Were filed when, I'm sorry?
That were filed 3, 4, 5 years ago. How many of these decisions that we now have?
I don't have that number for you right now. I didn't break it down like that. But I can get the number to you. I can send it to Travis, or I can send it directly to you.
I just
But,
curious, because the length of time it seems that it takes for these decisions, just from me, is way too long.
And
It's
I agree.
way too long.
I agree.
You need to deal with them.
Well,
And
I'm
most
just
of
saying
the
that,
problem with that is, on an appeal, there are, throughout Colorado, there's over 200,000 appeals that are going on. And then, just like the court system, you get put on a docket, and no matter where you are or what your case is, you're on that docket, and that docket may take 3, 4, 5 years. You know, it all depends on how quickly they can go through it and how quickly they get all the evidence that they need to make sure that the case is finalized appropriately.
Yeah,
And with the claims is the same thing. If I am able to send all the documentation, the claim gets done within 3 months. If I'm not, and I have to send a release of information to Mercy, for instance, if Mercy does not act on that claim within 30 days, then the VA relies on the veteran to get the information. And if the veteran doesn't act on it, then that also delays the whole process. So that's a lot of the delay, is retrieving the paperwork. And the VA focuses on the first 30 days. And if they don't have all their paperwork in the first 30 days, they either do one or two things. They reach out to the veteran, and if the veteran does not respond to them, then they just proceed with what information they have. But if the veteran responds to them and adds more documentation, that also delays the veteran's claim. So it's a very tricky process, especially with VA. VA, you know, if you were in the military, it's hurry up and wait.
yeah, no, and you don't need to break it down specifically, just maybe on the next report, you could put on there how many of these decisions, 13 favorable, how long they've been going on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just curiosity.
I can do that. Most of the ones that are currently on here, I can tell you, are from 2022. There was, if I remember correctly, one, I believe, that was from 2018, I believe it was. And that was an appeal that was just recently approved.
Okay.
And, of course, the last page is the report that reflects the same numbers that I already stated in my report to you that I sent to VA.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you for what you do, Frank. I
Thank
know
you,
it's
sir.
a very frustrating line of BS when you get to dealing with some of it.
It can be, and then the hardest part of it is not being able to keep up with my system on the little things that should be kept up on. Because our system, Vetrospect, is used throughout Colorado. So if a veteran is traveling and they go to some other county VSO, if that information is not updated, then that other county VSO cannot help them. So that's where my office is lacking right now, is getting all that information updated.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, our senior services, Lori.
That's the same deal as housing.
Good evening, or good morning, Commissioners.
That seems like the evening, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Good morning.
Here. My financial report for May is, we had 150 clients that we served, 1,400 meals that was put out, and we didn't have to bill to AAA because we were depleted of money there, but we had revenue in there in the account to take care of everything, so we're not in the red in any way. Our money comes in from AAA probably the end of this month. It should be getting in. As you know, our AAA director was involved in a serious accident, and she was out for quite a while, and she's doing a lot better, but she's still struggling every now and then. We've had three site visits, and I've had to take care of those. The last site visit was with AAA with Christina. It was virtual because she couldn't travel yet, and we passed with flying colors. Everything was in order. We had a site visit with our Sharon Care, which includes the senior boxes and commodities. Paperwork was absolutely perfect. The last time we had a visit from them, there was a bunch of, that was 2 years ago, there was a bunch of things that weren't completed, and we straightened those out, and we're doing good on that. As far as our Netflix grant, that's all underway. We're got all the paperwork in for that. Our CSBG grant is in. Everything was great. I mean, I had to struggle to find all the paperwork on that because I was left in a situation where I didn't know where things were put, and some of it paperwork was destroyed. But in the process, everything's looking good. We will be, starting this next month for our new fiscal year, and the budget I turned in, I think, is really going to help because we got about $30,000 more than what was presented to us last year, and so hopefully it's going to go well. Any questions?
No, sounds good.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner? Okay, thank you. All right. Next, we have our CSU Extension, Ms. Lockhart. Come on down.
Miss Emily, you've got a lot of files here, so you're gonna have to walk me through which one you
Okay.
want.
Yeah, maybe I should start numbering them or something. Should I wait for?
Go ahead.
Okay. I know this is extremely important, and I know he'll be sorry to miss all of these fascinating updates from the Extension Office, but we'll proceed. So this isn't in any of those. I'll point to you, Travis. Just had a few updates that we've talked about before. Currently working on updating the MOU with CSU. It's in CSU's court right now. They have a template, and so I've inputted some things that are relevant specifically for our county. I'm waiting for them to do some things, then I'll reach out to Travis and Ian, and we can go from there. So we started on that budget process. I hope we're extremely simple with this, and I guess the biggest thing is, so there's a portion of the 4-H agent and then the director position that CSU invoices to the county because we, share those expenses, but we're, CSU employees, and so that amount will increase by $575. So we'll request that. And then we talked about our vehicle is aging, and so just starting to explore that process to make sure that we have a vehicle that is less than 15 years old. But So, big thing in the extension right now is fair prep. And so you might have thought there were Taylor Swift concert tickets on sale at our office this morning. There were not. There were camping spot reservations were going on, so people started lining up at 7:30 in the morning.
Really?
Yep. Yep. So, but I think Tierney had a great process for that. So it was a low rumble in the office. But Tierney's also putting out, we have buyer packets, working with the fair board on promoting the fair. And so these were little cards that were like tabletop cards that in those buyer packets that kiddos took to buyers who have bought in the past who are interested in supporting at different businesses. So she's, you can see the teacher in her promoting these different events. She also has, I sent the newsletter that Tierney's been putting together, so I just wanted to brag on her. I think she's doing a great job of, working for communication with those 4-H families, and then puts together, this detailed newsletter every month. There's all these dates in 4-H that are really, really important. So, so it has lots of links in there and trying to, clearly explain all of those details. She also did a clover bud camp, and so there's a picture of some smaller kiddos in there someplace, Travis. And Todd went and helped with that. So she's doing kind of these like smaller, you could call them 4-H tasters. So it's like a workshop with kids to get them engaged in different things. So we've talked about different ways of engaging with different communities, and then different groups of kids to do different activities. So that was the first time she did something like that, and so she thought that went really well. Then Tierney just got back. She was gone last week because she took some 4-H members up to Fort Collins for the 4-H conference. So there might be some teenage kids pictures in there. And so they attended workshops and contests, and then we had 2 4-H members who participated in livestock judging, and their team placed second in sheep and goat judging.
All right.
Yeah, so with Cam the Ram up there. And so next year, she's hoping to send a team to compete in the Family Consumer Science Skillathon.
Is that one of your patients, Gerald?
So that's 4-H. I guess, the other thing with FAIR, and Commissioner Kopenhofer can give his opinion if he has one. So we've been watching the highly pathogenic avian influenza closely. The reports that I'm receiving from our state extension vet are there haven't been cases in Colorado, so we're going to go ahead with a 4-H show. But the fair board decided to not do an open class poultry show. So we're going to have some biosecurity measures, make sure that we can be cautious, make sure those kids can take home safe birds for those breeding type birds. But so that was a decision the fair board had to work through, but hopefully that will be good for everyone. Then I think there's a picture of a tomato workshop in there. So Todd has been working on things like helping at the orchard, organizing master gardeners, providing more volunteer opportunities for master gardeners. And then we had Darren Parmenter, who is the Director of Horticulture Extension Agent over in La Plata County, and he came over and did a tomato workshop for us over here. So we have a great working relationship with the other extension agents in this area. We all have different skills, so it's great to work together. Darren had me over. I gave a presentation over there to talk about grazing management. So we work with each other. So great to have Darren come over. We always appreciate that. From the ag side of things, doing lots of site visits, emails, calls. I've had some poisonous plants that Commissioner Kopenhofer, I think in your other job, some folks have been consulting with you on as well. Getting calls about custom rates, about prices for pasture rental and hay sales. And so CSU, we have a printout that our ag business management team, they do surveys of the state. So we have estimates of numbers, so I can help people, kind of get what the going rate might be. Something that's really exciting and I'm excited to be a part of is CSU along with Oregon State University, they applied for, it's a really big grant. It's a $30 million grant that is for food business development centers. And so then I've been invited to be on the state steering committee for that, and that's a 7-member steering committee. And so I hope with that, there'll be quarterly meetings, but it's also identifying like what technical assistant development is needed and how to bring some of those funds down to our corner. The goal with this project is, ag business development in rural areas, and we really fit that. On that flyer that Travis has up there, so I'm working with Mount Ute Tribe, their natural resource department, and Farm and Ranch. We had some leftover money from a grant, and so we're doing a tour, a range health tour. I'm talking about grazing management. So they identified some topics that they wanted to cover, and so we'll be doing that in mid-July. I'm also doing some drought advising, part of the Drought Advisor program through CSU, and it's a partnership with the Colorado Department of Ag and Rocky Mountain Farmer Union. And so we have some local participants in that program. It's really just planning, which is really important in any business and really important for agricultural producers. So that's been our rewarding project to work on. And at the end, when people have their drought plans, then they get paid $500. So we have a grant to incentivize folks to write those drought plans. This was a really fun site visit that we did, and I had some CSU Extension entomologists come down, and we went and visited the fields out at Southwest Farms, and I don't know if you guys have driven out on Road 10 towards Hovenweep, and just those beautiful bright hot pink fields of Utah sweet vetch. And so we were doing some assessments for insects out there. So those are 2 entomologists, Melissa Franklin and then Melissa Schreiner, who came down from Grand Junction. And so we did some sweeping of the field, and I am not an entomologist, so I learned a lot, and it was interesting to see. Also working with the Mancos and High Desert Conservation Districts. I don't know if I think I've talked about this before, but we are installing some soil moisture monitors, and so that is the project that we're continuing to work on as part of the STAR Plus Soil Health Program. So the funding is coming from the Colorado Department of Ag, and then producers can sign up who are interested in participating in that. So continuing to be a technical advisor for that, with working with producers of how they can improve their soil health practices, and then helping them to understand, how to use the information from soil moisture monitoring in their irrigation decisions, or then if it's dry land, just how do you understand, what is happening there.
I got to ask a
Sure.
question.
Yeah.
Because as I'm looking at this photo,
Uh-huh.
you didn't share this with Bonnie, did you? And she think it was a field of
No.
Canada thistle because it looks
No.
kind of the same.
That's Utah sweet vetch. So, I think they're good. So I think Bonnie's cool with it. These are all native plants. So, but it was really funny when we were there. Lots of tourists who are on their way to Hovenweep would stop and be like, "What is this field?" Because it's just beautiful. So I don't always get to go on cool site visits like this. I get to go to some really cool places, though, visiting properties throughout the county. But this was pretty cool too. So I'm working on some upcoming workshops. Also have interns. So then I think there's a picture by the Southwestern Colorado Research Center sign. So our friend Greg Felson, who you might remember, is in this picture. And so in his new position as an accessible education specialist with CSU Extension, he just organized a day for these different CSU Extension interns, which is a summer program, to gather together to learn about the research that different extension agents are doing and to just learn about extension in general. So that was a really great day. That then Todd Ballard, who's the bearded guy there, he's an agronomist based in the Tri-River area, but he's a great resource. So he has a few interns that he came down, and he's doing some research at the Research Center in Yellow Jacket. And I talked about my dryland restoration project, and some other things that I did in past life when I worked there, like planting kernza. So that was very, very fun to interact with those interns, see all their their enthusiasm for agriculture, all the things that they're doing through their internship with CSU. And I'm a part of an internship program with, you might know, the Laura Foundation locally, and then they have, through their, they work in multiple states. And so the Laura Foundation has a project called Fieldwork, where they had $10,000 grants that they gave producers who were interested in irrigation, like innovations and efficiency projects. And so we had a few producers who were awarded those grants locally. And then the Laura Foundation folks based in Denver are going to come here the week of like the 18th. And they have a CSU Extension intern that is working on that project. So we're going to tour them around coming up. And then another intern in that picture, she's working on some post-vention work. So we've talked with Greg, has been a part of this, as well as then the county health department, Katie Maxwell, and we're talking about post-vention for if we've started with, suicide and in response to suicide within agriculture, communities, but then looking at any sort of tragedy of, what role can extension play, and how do we best address those needs after, a traumatic event of any sort, which unfortunately, just is happens. But I've always, when things happen, then it's like, well, what is Extension's role, and how do we support that community? So, it's a serious subject, but connecting with some great resources through the program AgriBility, which CSU has a big role in, and then we're able to kind of leverage those different resources with Extension to bring those to our local community. Help me, learn how to, in our office, learn how to better respond to those events. So that's what we're up to, but you guys have any questions?
No.
Okay. I got to visit with you yesterday,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
all my questions were answered,
Okay.
asked and answered yesterday, but
Excellent.
nothing as it pertains to what's going on.
Okay.
Obviously, we know we're going to be very busy with fair coming up.
Yeah.
And
Have you got a guess for numbers?
Of who will attend fair?
Well, number of kids involved.
Ooh, well, I know there's close to 200 kids in the 4-H program locally, but I don't know how many kids are registered for fair, and that's still ongoing right now. But we can report that back. So, but yeah, hope to see you all out there.
I'm sure you'll see us
I got
at some
2 or 3
point in
kids
time.
doing something, so we
Yeah. So, but we'll keep you posted. And yes, trying to keep Tierney's stress level to a low rumble. But this is a learning year. We're all kind of new, so trying to give us all a little grace. But hopefully we'll have a great year for those 4-H kids. So.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go on to our unfinished business. Yesterday in our workshop, we had a couple of presentations that we'll take care of today. And the first one is the possible signing of the CBDG grant, Community Development Block Grant, as it was presented by Brian Rose from Region 9. I think we pretty much looked this over yesterday. Ian, you don't have anything to add to this?
No, I don't have anything to add. We discussed the
Letter.
that goes along with this concerning no excessive force policy in the county. We discussed that is a policy that is controlled by the sheriff, implemented by the sheriff. The county commissioners don't have any purview to enact a policy that would govern the use of no excessive force in the sheriff's office. And so because of that, we are submitting a letter that says that the sheriff has a no excessive force policy, but in essence, we don't have any control over that.
So, commissioners, question?
No. I move we sign the Community Development Block Grant for Business Loans Funds. Also, the intergovernmental agreement that pertains to that. And there's more.
And the letter.
And the letter that goes with it. And the Citizen Participation Development Plan. And the Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan. Well, you got a lot of ink, man, I hope. There we go.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to sign the CBDG grant. Gosh, they just keep coming. Along with Region 9, and in that specifically, the major portion of it is the letter that Ian addressed as far as the no excessive force by the sheriff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, give me a second here.
We can take a break while he uses up all his ink.
But the next one that we'll be talking about is going to be the decision as it's related to the 23-24 gaming grant that was presented by the sheriff yesterday. That grant that he's putting in for this year is in the amount of $141,000. There was questions that we had yesterday as far as documentation and data that we can't currently extract out of our software. And it sounds like they're going to start just doing some of that by hand so that we can, look at this and look at this grant in a little bit bigger picture or a bigger lens, since we're, Southwest Colorado, we have 2 casinos down here, and the rest of the casinos are all up basically in the Front Range. So we want to make sure that we're getting our portion of this funding that comes from these gaming grants. Any other questions or comments on that one, guys?
I don't think there's a spot for you to sign on any of the other stuff. Just
Okay. So what's your pleasure on the gaming grant?
Move we sign the gaming grant contract. I don't have it in front of me.
And it would be the 2023 application for the gaming grant.
Okay.
At this point, there's no contract, it's just the application.
The
that we're signing
application
off
to
on.
submit the grant.
Application for the 2023 gaming grant.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we sign the application for the 23-24 gaming grant application. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. And then we also were presented yesterday in our workshop, cooperative agreement between Montezuma County and the Forest Service. This is basically what we refer to as our Schedule A agreement. This is a 5-year agreement, and this is moving it forward with the roads that we work cooperatively with the Forest Service. And then as you go through the agreement, it basically states what we do once a year for these. Anything else, gentlemen?
I would so move we sign the cooperative forest road agreement between Montezuma County, USDA Forest Service, San Juan National Forest. The agreement number is 23-RO-1101300-039.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign the cooperative forest road agreement between Montezuma County and the USDA Forest Service, San Juan National Forest. The agreement number is 23-RO-110213000-039. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 You got to sign this one too.
Not so much for that.
Okay, and lastly, we are going to move this decision as it was related to a discussion for the county employees sick leave pool until we have our department head meeting in July. So that'll be forthcoming, so no decision will be made on that today. And with that, we have Mr. Dietrich just walked in the room, and you are first, as we're almost done with the agenda.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
So, wanted to let the commissioners know that I did attend the BLM Southwest RAC meeting last week up in Montrose. One of the things that we discussed there is kind of related to some of the things that we're experiencing here in Montezuma County, and that is the increase in recreational use out there on virtually all of our public lands. And what they're experiencing up there is a pretty heavy push to continue to develop trails. There's two things about that. I mean, one is that obviously the trails have some impact, but the other side of that is that the user-generated routes have even more impact. So I think really the consensus is that having well-designed, purposefully built trails is better than trying to adapt to the user-generated routes. And so that's what they're angling in on up there. One of the other things that's kind of become apparent is that when trail systems are developed up there, sometimes they put a seasonal closure on those trail systems, and that is to offset the impacts on wildlife. So in a roundabout way, there's actually a kind of a benefit to wildlife because some of these areas are becoming closed, and in the past those areas would have been open and used year-round. So time will tell whether or not that's going to have a beneficial impact for our wildlife or not, but CPW seems to be pushing that pretty hard. The other thing is that CPW is initiating a grant system for counties to engage in planning to help figure out how to mitigate the impacts on wildlife. And I think that we heard from that, Mr. Kalen Grigg was in from the Dolorstown Board, and that was the project that he's pushing to work on also. So these are things that we'll be discussing. We will be having another Southwest RAC meeting in Silverton in October, and then in February we will be having a Southwest RAC meeting here in Montezuma County. The purpose of that meeting is really to go out and take a look at the Flowdine Yellow Jacket allotments, and the topic of discussion will be the feral horses out there. As we all know, that's an increasing problem out for Flowdine in N.M.P.M, but it's actually an increasing problem statewide too. Horses are being turned out, just let go, and apparently they've got special management areas for those horses where they're intended to be, and but what we're experiencing is the horses are getting out, statewide on all public lands. So that'll be part of the discussion, and we'll look forward, and hopefully maybe some of the commissioners can attend that particular field trip would be helpful. But again, that's in February, so we'll kind of keep you updated on how that develops. Also wanted to update you on the Pass to Mesa Verde. We completed the 70% design review for the segment B, and that is the fairgrounds to Mesa Verde. And so we completed that last week. And as I heard this morning, we did discover that there are some cultural resources that are within our alignment that happen to be within the state highway right-of-way is where they're at, and actually located on state land board land. And so, yeah, we'll have to figure out a way to help mitigate those situations. Two of them are going to be pretty easy to just reroute around, and we've already got the design that has already been implemented that takes that reroute into consideration. The third one is a little more difficult. The line of delineation that they've told us that we need to avoid is practically on the white line. So that one's a little harder to get around, but hopefully we can figure out how to mitigate that somehow, either push that trail out to the highway or go around the backside of it. The backside of it, it's just at the edge of those arroyos out there, so it's just going to be difficult to get around the backside. But hopefully, in my opinion, I think you can throw dirt over it and ignore it. In fact, that is
just tunnel underneath.
Yeah, well, something like that too, I guess. But that is one of the mitigation strategies is just to bury it. And in this case, we would only be burying a small portion of it. So maybe that is a way that we can move through on it. But yeah, Alan's correct. We will have to work with the SHPO on that. And no, we're not looking forward to that much at all. So. Anyway, that's
We're
where
not
we're at
stopping
with
the
it.
project. We are continuing to move forward.
Yeah, we're continuing to move forward. Yeah, that is not
We
a
continually
stop.
get hurdles, but we don't just stop.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So on the Manka side, we just received notice we were unsuccessful for the TAP grant, which would have helped us out with the Highway 160B realignment. So we're going to have I've set up a debriefing on that tomorrow to find out exactly what, where the highway department came down on that. And just told them, well, you might as well just give us the money because we're going to keep coming back. So anyway, we'll find out tomorrow, hopefully, where we went wrong with that, if we went wrong. And my understanding is they just had way more good projects than what they had money to distribute. So hopefully this is a matter of timing, and as we get it closer to construction phase, maybe we can find some more dollars for that. Then we're working on the permitting through the sections that, and that's in segment B, that cross through the BLM lands. And of course the BLM, they own the land that's underneath the highway right-of-way, so we're not able to just work through the highway on that. We also have to get a permit through the BLM. So, and they've assured us that they'll put us at the top of the list, even though they have no realty people in the office right now, and we're actually working with an oil and gas specialist on it. But anyway, that might be to our benefit. He said that as long as he's in there, he'll put it at the top of the list. I don't think we're in a huge hurry on this, gentlemen, because we don't even have the funding for construction. We just want to make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row so that we have a shovel-ready project, and that's our objective. So. And also working on permitting through the state land board. We're in a similar situation with them. We certainly don't want to enter into any kind of a lease agreement with them before we're ready to construct it, because there's no use paying for something we don't even have out there. So anyway, yes, more problems, and we'll just continue to keep working on those. Also wanted to let the commissioners know, and of course, we've been engaged in the CFLRP collaborative process. Trying to work through some of the logging projects here in the county. The Center for Biological Diversity and the San Juan Citizens Alliance filed a complaint in a request for injunction on the Salter Project Vegetation Management. And I think I've forwarded that on to everybody. So at this point, I don't think it's really stalled anything out for this year. We had one timber sale that was coming off of that project, but they weren't really slated to start doing any of the actual logging up there for probably a year or two yet. So there is maybe a little bit of time to help, kind of work through this process. We're all pretty upset with the San Juan Citizens Alliance in particular. We've really put a lot of effort and time into this project, and to have this kind of come as an absolute surprise was really, I feel, pretty inappropriate from their organization. Right from the very beginning, that was one of the fundamental things that we were trying to accomplish through this collaborative, was no surprises. And why they couldn't have at least come and told us, a month ago that, things aren't working out, we're considering this as a last-ditch option, but instead they kind of they went nuclear on us, basically, with no reason whatsoever. So we'll continue to try to resist this, but again, it's in the court system. There's not much that we as a collaborative can really do. But as the conservation community continues to litigate everything that comes in front of them, it's hard to see how collaboration is really all that much helpful. It's really been a time sink, and all done in good faith on, I think, everybody's part. But this is just tremendously disappointing.
What kind of economic damage does this do?
Well, I think it can. We haven't gotten numbers for that, Kent, but certainly it's going to be an economic problem for us in this county. We've got timber cutters that are up there that could be engaged with that. We've got logging haulers, the trucking industry, and our local residents are engaged in that. So certainly there's an economic side to that. But the other part of it is the health, safety, and welfare, because all that land is within the WUI. Just delaying any kind of action up there on the forest to reduce that risk it puts us all at risk.
Right.
So,
which is
part of the logging is mitigation.
I'm sorry?
Logging is mitigation.
Yes, correct.
It
yes.
truly is a mitigation, and without those mitigation measures, the WUI just continues to grow and grow, and
absolutely,
it's going to burn.
Yeah,
it will eventually then just burn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not if, it's just when.
It's just a matter of when. That's correct. Yeah. And really, when we look at it, the scale of the problem up there is why we need that nexus with commercial logging, because there's just no way we could pay somebody to go out there and cut timber down, just leave it on the ground. We really need to have that economic component to it to be able to handle everything at that scale. And it's still a problem for those guys. They still have a tremendous amount of slash left over that we still have to deal with. So I mean, it's a difficult deal, and it gets even more difficult when you haven't got that commercial aspect to it. So we'll do our best to continue to collaborate and keep working with everybody at the table, but it just for the moment doesn't feel very good, working with the conservation organizations. And I think that we are going to plainly telegraph that to them also. I don't think there's probably much to be gained by kicking them off the collaborative. That's probably just going to make things worse. But at the same time, they ought to know how everybody feels about it. So, let's see. Also, the U.S. Forest Service is apparently asking questions about the Ferris and Cabin campgrounds, the weed control going on down there. That was our obligation as a county to do the weed management for those, and then Dolores County was going to handle everything else on that. So I put out a message to Bonnie just to see if we've had any work down there yet, but apparently the Forest Service is getting pretty anxious about it. So, and again, I'll work with Bonnie on it, make sure we get somebody down there, and even if I have to go down myself, if we get some equipment, I can go take care of that. So.
It seems like this comes up in conversation every year, and we go down there every year to take care of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just in that camp, or that old campground facility, correct?
That's correct, those two campgrounds. And our obligation, according to our
Right.
MOU, is just to do the weed control. So, and that's, what we've told Dolores County, and Dolores County is aware of that also. Yeah, and I haven't been up there to take a look at anything. I just got a call from Dolores County that said the Forest Service is asking questions.
Okay. Well,
if I get a chance, I'll run up there, take a look at it, and try to give Bonnie a better analysis. But it shouldn't be too much to take care of those. But I know she's busy elsewhere also. And then the last thing is we have the BLM Big Game Management Resource Plan Amendment open for review from June 26th to July 10th. And so I've forwarded that on to the commissioners, so I think if we have anything in there that stands out to you gentlemen as something we need to comment on, let me know, and we'll put together a letter. And then in the meantime, I'll be reviewing it also to see if there's anything that we can provide any kind of a positive spin on. Other than that, I guess that concludes my report. I was out for the better part of last week between the BLM meeting, and I took a few days off also to go up to Greeley. So.
Okay.
It's green up there. Boy, it looks like Kentucky up there. I've never seen it that green.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And they've had a lot of water the last 10 days.
Oh boy, they sure have. Yeah. My mom's house flooded the basement. My brother's house flooded in the basement, just running in through the windows.
A lot of water.
Yep, a lot of water, more than I can recall ever seeing up there, honestly.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, next, Mr. McLaren.
Since last time we met, CDPHE and I finalized a contempt motion. Spent a good deal of time drafting that and got that filed in the Ironwood case. Contempt hearing has been set for this Thursday. Really, in essence, the issue is that the stipulated injunction required Ironwood to have all wood product removed from that pile by the end of June. There's still wood product on the ground, and actually a considerable amount of wood product on the ground. Ironwood continues to remove material from that pile, albeit slowly. We continue to get load tickets, but at this point, they're hauling out 3 or 4 loads a day on average. Some of it's going to our landfill. There's a small amount that goes up to Montrose, but progress is still being made, but it's not happening quickly. And so we are set for a contempt hearing this Thursday. The parties have submitted a filing to the court. In essence, what was included in that filing was an agreement that Ironwood would plead guilty to being in contempt of that court order that required them to remove the material from that pile. Upon the entry, that guilty plea, we would change that hearing on Thursday to a hearing for the imposition of sanctions. At that point in time, what has been proposed to the court is that Montezuma County and CDPHE would recommend a fine of $10,000 up front. That would be due within 5 days, plus an additional $2,500 per week for each week that material remains on the ground until the end of July. If there is still material on the ground at the end of July, another hearing would be held for the imposition of additional sanctions. And so that's what's been contemplated. The court has yet to rule on that filing. And so at this point in time, we are set for a full-blown contempt hearing on Thursday, and we will be prepared to go to hearing on that date. I think that, certainly throughout this process, there has been frustration with the speed with which that material has been removed. We all know that there's a fire danger posed by that pile. There are residences in the area. And certainly, the municipalities are nearby too, and if a fire were to break out, it would be devastating for this community. I think that one of the challenges in moving through the litigation process in this matter is, we certainly want to be sure that the pile continues to move. And so, trying to balance what's going to be, a sanction that's not going to prevent Ironwood from putting resources towards that pile, while at the same time imposing a sanction that's going to encourage Ironwood to, continue to remove material and pick up the pace of removal is sort of the goal that the parties are looking for. And so we'll continue to work forward with that. And, as of now, again, we have that contempt hearing set for Thursday. And so I'll keep you guys updated if there's any order from the court before that hearing. Other than that, it's been a busy time in our land use case involving Ellis Lewis out off of Highway 184. There were several discovery requests that I filed last month, received a lot of documentation related to those requests earlier this month, and now I'm working on some court filings pertaining to that case that will be due at the end of this week. So continue to work on that, and other than that, at this point, I don't have anything to report. Just a lot of day-to-day busyness. I certainly, it was good to see Miss Montoya in here earlier. There's lots of different measures in child protection and social services that indicate success, and one of those is those CSTAT scores, and it's good to see that those have improved. I mean, that's certainly an element of it's one indicator of success. And so, certainly congratulations to the staff there. Our office works very closely with them. Our assistant county attorney handles a big docket for them, and he's doing a great job. And so congratulations to that staff, and congratulations to Miss Montoya on her retirement. Certainly also very excited to begin working with Miss Hargraves and continue to move the department forward. So other than that, I don't have anything to report.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Ian. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Busy week, as you gentlemen have experienced. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails regarding the hospital situation. Hopefully we'll come to some successful conclusion with that. We are restructuring our senior services. We're going to combine MOCO and the senior services program together. That application process went out yesterday. Been in negotiations on the Dolores contract for law enforcement services, and hopefully we'll have a conclusion with that in the near future. Set up a board-to-board meeting. Mancus would like to meet with the commissioners, see what kind of collaboration the town and county can do. Let's see. Spent Thursday and Friday out at the landfill with Mel and CDPHE. I want to give him a kudos. He's got a good operation out there. I just got to say, because CDPHE was even in awe. So that just got to throw a word out for him. And then as it relates to the gaming grant, this morning IT is getting on board with the sheriff's office, E-Force, and their gaming grant coordinator, and they're going to see if they can start extracting data correctly for that grant. So he's on top of it.
Very good.
And then the rest
Thank
of the
you.
week, we're just doing budget committee
Budget.
hearings, so.
All right. Commissioner Lindsay.
Right. As Travis alluded to, a lot of phone calls and messages about hospital and the likes like that. And I didn't have any meetings this week. City council's canceled because they went to CML, so I don't have to go to city council tonight. But I am going to MVI tonight, and I think I'll drop by the SHS meeting tomorrow night.
Very good. Commissioner Copenaker.
I can't remember if I reported last week that I did get appointed to the task
did.
force for Colorado.
Yeah.
Anyway, we haven't set up any meetings yet, but that's set up to do recommendations as to possible legislation for Colorado legislatures to do in the future as far as dealing with the Colorado River drought problems that we're facing. That's what our task is. Otherwise, like everybody else, I had lots of conversations about the hospital. Had a couple of grandkids here for a week. Took them fishing for this weekend. It's very interesting when you have 4 or 5 that are 6 years old and less, all trying to fish at the same time.
Bunch of tangled lines.
You cannot believe how many fish hooks you can bait in just a little while and try to keep all of them from yelling at you and wanting to reel in the next
Yeah.
one. So
Did you
it
guys
was
catch any?
very, very entertaining and amusing, to say the least. But they caught some fish, and it was very, very good. So it was a good time.
Very good. All right. Well, mine is going to be relatively quick also. Obviously, like these other two gentlemen, we've all had a lot of calls, emails, and texts over the concerns with the hospital. And hopefully we can move this forward in a positive manner and get some good outcome and communication between us all. I did want to bring to your attention yesterday that we all received an email from CCI as we get ready to start our new legislative push for this upcoming legislative agenda. And it was brought to our attention last week, even in here in our public comment, the issue that we face with weeds, and it was even brought, today just by Mr. Dietrich. Bonnie, Travis, and myself had met with Senator Simpson earlier, and basically we have a proposal, and if you guys if you've had enough time to look at that, but that conversation starts July 14th with CCI. The state mandates that we provide these programs, but they're not providing any of the funding, and part of this legislation that we would like to ask them for is that if you're going to do this, then fund it.
Yeah.
So look that over if you have any comments. Otherwise, I'll be trying to present that on July 14th to CCI and see if we can get the other 64 counties on board with us to move that through legislation, because it significantly impacts us down here in rural Colorado. We did have our work session yesterday. We've talked about most of those. One thing we didn't highlight, and we'll make a decision on it in our upcoming meetings, but we had a request for gravel for improving red roads. So just to kind of highlight this, red roads are specifically red roads. The county didn't accept them for maintenance, and the red roads are typically something that are taken care of by those agencies or entities that created those roads. And if I didn't express that properly, Ian?
I think that's pretty much the right explanation. Really, red roads on the map are roads that appear on the ground. The county doesn't make any claim one way or the other as to whether it's a county road, whether it's a private right-of-way, and so we haven't established those as county roads. They they are roads on the ground, and we generally don't do any sort of maintenance on those roads because they really are, in essence, private roads.
They're just shown for addressing, aren't they?
That's right.
Yeah.
So, discussion yesterday, and really, that's all that I have. So with that, gentlemen,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn this June 26, 2023 meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.